Hi, it's Jamie. Welcome back. This video, I will be doing a WIP parade. Let's get into it. If you don't know, and I didn't know until quite recently, a WIP parade typically happens around the end of the year or the beginning of the new year, and people share their current works in progress. Some of these you will have seen in prior videos, others you haven't, and I hope it'll give you sort of an idea of a little bit more of the sewing that I do and maybe inspire you to try something new. So let's get started with the ones that you have seen. First and foremost, Queen of Diamonds. So Queen of Diamonds is a pattern by Pink Door Fabrics. I have shown this before. I have videos of it before. It's English paper pieced. You can follow along my journey as I am making the blocks and designing the blocks. So far, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and technically a half done. This is sort of the project that I've been working on a lot lately, and that I'm most excited about. So I'm making good progress. So I held up, there's the blue block, and then the puffin block, and the panda block, and this one. This is the first one that I did, and it's a little bland compared to the others. And then this is the half block. So this is going to be on the outer edge of the quilt. So that's Queen of Diamonds. I have a little pile here, so they're not really in any order. But things that I have shared before. So Sashiko 365, but I have started doing blocks and I have a bunch that are prepped to film. I just haven't made time to film them. That might be a future live stream. Here we go. I found the done ones. So these are some of the ones that I have finished. And you will see videos for these on the channel that I have filmed as I'm stitching them. They're real time. They're not sped up. So you can actually see the colors quite nicely. So as I said, I do have blocks prepped for filming. I just haven't really, here, sneak peek. Here's one. I just haven't made time or really felt impassioned about this project to get back into it. I do have a lot prepped, so maybe I'll buckle down and get back into this one someday soon. Some people on these share their project bags and stuff, so maybe I'll do that, because why not? So I have been keeping my Sashiko 365 project in this little project bag. It might be a little hard to see. It says the Needlepoint Clubhouse, and this is in St. Louis. You can see the arch, and they are mainly a canvas work shop. So they have a lot of specialty threads and yarns and things like that for doing counted canvas work. It was definitely like a kid in a candy store. They had all the threads and all the patterns and all the rainbows. And so if you're ever in St. Louis and you like doing hand stitching, embroidery, things like that, definitely check them out. So I'm not going to unfold it all the way, but this is English paper pieced. It is a pattern by Libs Elliott, and again, I have videos of this so you can kind of go back and see, but her pattern called for a specific one of her fabric collections that was all blue, gray, black, that kind of thing. Not really my not really my cup of tea, but it was, for whatever reason, one of those patterns that you see where you're just like, wow, that's incredible. I need that pattern and I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I am doing it. It's just taking its sweet time. So let's go through some other ones. So I enjoy Sashiko. I'll show you this little bag that I've been keeping this project in. So I have this little bag. I'd never seen a bag designed like this before, and I thought it was quite cool. It's called a slide clasp. So there's a little button here, and you pull it up the slide clasp, and then it opens like this. And then you can have, it's quite roomy, like there's a bunch in here. So what this has been holding is a Sashiko Totebag. I think I took this on a trip, possibly the St. Louis one and maybe Denver. I don't remember. So it is made up of panels that you stitch, and then you sew it together to make a tote bag. And I will put a picture of the tote bag up here so you can see what it'll look like when it's done. The thread that I am using is this guy from Olympus. This is number 171. It's one of their newer colors. And then this really vivid orange. I wanted a nice contrast color, and I think it works quite well. You can see with the stitching there. There is another panel that I have started, which has the same design, sort of the same lattice design, and then it's got the scallops. So, yeah, very fun. I chose to do this pattern or project, I think just because having something practical is kind of nice. A lot of the projects that I do kind of just sit when they're done. I give them away to people because I make them as gifts. So having something practical to carry around with me and, I don't know, store sewing stuff when I'm on the move is kind of nice. So there's that guy. One of my New Year's resolutions last year, so 2025, was to learn a new skill. I was debating on hardanger, which is a form of embroidery. I was considering, I think, hardanger. I can't remember what else I was considering. I would still like to try hardanger. It's a little intimidating. It is counted handwork, but that's the one where you cut the fabric. So you might sew, have a square and then you cut the threads in the square and then do some kind of work in there. That's a little intimidating. So when I was looking at new books that come out, because I like looking at what our distributors bring in, see what's new, see what would be interesting for the store to have, I came across this book, and I'll put a picture of it here. It's called Learn to Knit in 50 Squares. So I have been teaching myself how to knit. So these blocks are not blocked. That's why they're kind of wrinkly. This is the first one for knitting in the round. So you have like what are called circular needles, and you're literally knitting in a circle. So you start from the outside and then come in and then close the hole at the end. And then there's this one, which is the last one that I did, which was a challenge. Let's just say that. But I find the book to be, I think it's really well written. I have never knit before. Never. I had grandmothers that knit a lot, and I guess part of my New Year's resolution was I felt some regret in my time that I never picked up knitting from them. So this is sort of a way for me to, I don't know, reconnect with them, even though they're gone, and make up for lost time and whatever. It's also practical. I live in a cold climate, so I would like to learn how to knit socks and mitts and toques and things like that. So that is that one. Speaking of my grandmothers, I suppose I had one grandmother. I called her Kiss, K-I-S, and she is the one that taught me how to cross stitch. So I started cross stitching when I was about 9 years old, and I have been kind of doing it on and off ever since. Sorry, you can hear a cat in the background. That's Nyx. Speaking of cats, this is covered in cat hair. So I started this project quite a while ago. It's one of those patterns that, again, I saw and I really liked. And I think some people call them unicorn patterns, where they're difficult to find or they're expensive or something like that. And then you finally get your hands on it. So this was a charity stitch along that happened quite a long time ago. And I missed out on most of the patterns. I think if I remember right, the seller had it on Etsy, but she only had a few of the last blocks. Anyway, long story short, I managed to find the pattern. And so I have been working on this for a long time. I've had to put it away because parts of it, I just wasn't feeling it anymore. We've all been there. So I'll put a picture of it again up here, but I'll show you what I have just on my scroll frame. So this is Quotes to Live by Emma Congdon, who is one of my favorite cross-stitch designers. I think her design is really strong, the way that she works with text and color. So this is where I'm at. So I am about, I want to say, 85% done. What I have left is there's a big thing here that says Quotes to Live by, and then there's one square here and then another square here that I need to finish. And then there's a backstitched border. I'm not going to do the full border that the pattern calls for just because I think it's kind of a lot. But let me unscroll this and show you my progress, because I'm pretty proud of this guy. So I really like this one. Again, the color and the text is really strong. What? I'm gonna unscrew this more. And there's quotes by a bunch of, they're all like little aspirational quotes. So do what you can with what you have where you are, Teddy Roosevelt. The best thing to hold on to in life is each other, Audrey Hepburn. Have patience with all things, most of all yourself. So anyway, there's a lot. When I got to these blocks with the pink background, that's when I kind of had to put it away for a little while, because I struggle with doing big blocks of color. I just find it very mundane, very repetitive. I know there is something to be said for large blocks of color because it can be meditative in the sense that you don't have to think about it. So I broke these down into 10 by 10 squares to get it done. But yeah, there's the bottom. So all in all, this thing, I'd have to look up the size, but it's a pretty decent size, as you can see. This is also being stitched on even weave. So this is not on Ada. I don't remember the count right now, and it's a little off-white. This is my first even weave project. I tend to go a little hardcore with these things. But again, it was just one of those patterns with the layout and the colors that I thought was really striking. And I am so glad that I managed to find the pattern and be able to finally stitch it. It's just a matter of getting through that last 85%. And I haven't shown anybody this. Well, some of you might have seen it, actually. That's a lie. Some of you might have seen this. A lot of you have not. So this is almost done. Kind of. So this guy, just want to make sure we're right side up here. This is a little mini quilt. Look at those colors. Wowie. So this is English paper pieced. It is a mini Penelope from Lilabelle Lane. So when we first ordered Lilabelle Lane kits for the store, they sent us a little sampler kit to make a sample. Well, needless to say, I didn't get the sample done because, I'm working and I have things to do. Anyway, I've never hand quilted anything in my entire life, but I thought for whatever reason that hand quilting this would be the way to go. It's not a full-size quilt. This quilt is it's less than a quarter of the real size Penelope. I have done one. It's hard to see because I'm using matching thread, but I've done one shape in the hand quilting. So that's why all these safety pins are in here, because it's basted to the moon because I don't want it to shift. And I am hand quilting using size 8 Wonderfill from Sue Briscoe. So I have thread, and I didn't want the thread to take away from the prints or my fussy cutting and things like that. So I'm using matching thread. So I have the green, the navy, the dark pink, light pink, yada, yada. And what I've done is I've just traced a 1/4 inch from the edge of the shape with my air erase pen, and then I just stitch it. So I'm basically doing one at a time. I'm debating how much I really need to do. So in here, like these pink crosses, I might just do the cross. So my camera's not mirrored. It's weird. So I might just do the outline of the cross instead of like each individual shape. I haven't decided. This fabric is by Brett Lewis, or a Natural Born Quilter. He is local to us and he is a very cool dude. I just really like his style in some of these prints. A lot of his work is, basically all of his work that I remember is all very nature based. So there's birds, polar bears, loons, fish, things like that. It's kind of prairie-ish without being prairie-ish, like country, if that makes sense. And the colors, I love how it's nice and modern. And the solids are color works that coordinate with the fabric line. And this is the backing that I went with. So we got little frogs and lily pads. So, man, I just gotta get some of these done and plug on through. I'm not using a hoop for this. I do have a hoop that I could use when I'm hand stitching, but it can be a little awkward, that's all. But this is something I could do when I'm watching Netflix if I really wanted to. And last WIP is, it's kind of a mishmash of, I don't know. I saw a Hexagon flower quilt by, I don't remember who, that I really liked. And I thought that would be a great idea for all my Ruby Star fabric. So I really like Ruby Star. I have some prepped in this project bag, and then I have a bunch prepped in this container here, sorted by color family. And basically, I don't know if I have my finished one in here. If I do, I'll bring it out. Oh, I do have a couple in here. I haven't really done a whole lot with this aside from do the basting. So my goal with this is to use a bunch of Ruby Star, because having the store, and I've got this fabric a long time ago, but having the store, we would have sales reps come and show us samples of fabric that was coming out, and then we could order that fabric from them. And the sample cards have like real fabric on them, typically, where you can feel it and see the color of what it's going to look like on the fabric and things like that. And they have these little swatches, basically. So one of, I guess it was our Moda sales rep at the time. I don't know if they are still with the company. Anyway, they had come through town, and I guess they were going through their samples and switching out old for new. And they're like, hey, you're a big Ruby Star fan. Do you want all my sample cards? And I was like, well, sure, why not? Well, what happened was then I have little swatches of a bunch of fabric. So typically, depending on the swatch, they could be, say, like a 5x5 square or oddly shaped or whatever. So I had a bunch of Ruby Star fabric that I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with. And then I came across this hexy flower project and thought, hey, that looks like fun. So my goal for these is to make flowers that use the same or similar color family, and then something fussy cut that contrasts in the middle. So this one just happens to have a coral, a little record, vinyl record with a coral holder. So these are all pinks. And then the other one, I think I've only done two. The other one is these sort of terracotta browns with the pink in the middle. This is also why I like to take the paper out of the middle when I do my flowers. I think I talk about this in one of my sewing videos, because then I can fold it in half like this, and then they just store nicely. And then I don't have the paper folded harshly in the middle. So whatever. So I have made a bunch of these little stacks with the flowers that I want to do. As the balloon dog, one of my favorites from Ruby Star. And then the petals are going to be all different blues. And I tried initially to have all the same print, but one thing was with the fabric samples that I was given, you didn't really have enough of that fabric to get 6 petals out of. And I just kind of like how it's sort of randomy while still having like the focus fabric in there. So yeah, the petals are all fussy cut out of different things. So I've got like the owl, and this one I've chosen to go with, again, the terracotta browns. Then I've got a green speckled to, again, go with the terracotta browns. I think when I was doing this, I realized I had a lot of brown. But then you get fun ones like these sort of chartreuse lime green. And then I have a bunch of pale blue. Just another kind of mindless project that I probably could take pretty much wherever and work on it as much or as little as I want. I have no real goal or timeline for this project. But as I showed, I have a bunch of hexagons already basted. And then in this fabric, or in this project bag, I have a bunch of already pre-cut hexagons that I just need to baste onto the fabric. So I guess it's sort of whatever mood I'm in, I can kind of go from there. And this bin was kind of amazing. I found it at the dollar store, but it holds my hexagons just perfect. Like, look at that. And these are 1 inch, 1.5 inch hexagons. I think they're 1.5. Where's my ruler? So these are 1.5 inch hexagons. So they're a good size. And I think for stitching them together, I'm just going to have them side by side like this. I debated doing, you know, something like this where they're in rows and then having like a white to sort of space them out, but maybe I'll just stitch them, you know, together like this. I haven't decided. So that's my hexagon flower, and that's all the WIPs that I have. I don't have a very, I technically have more, but I would say that they have fallen into the abandoned project realm. Maybe one day I'll get back to those because they are nice and I would like to do them. Because I either started in a class or I think the two that I can think of off the top of my head, I started in a class and they're both hand work. One is counted canvas work and the other one is needle punch, kind of, with embroidery elements. So I would like to get back to them, but it's just one of those ones where sort of outside the class environment, it's kind of like, I can always get back to them later. So yeah, that is the end of my WIP parade. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments about the WIPs that I have shown you in my parade, please leave them down below. Happy to read them. And until then, happy stitching. Bye.